So Zielinski, a big part of Napoli's success last season. Why is he being pushed out, and who do they want to replace him?
Pushed out simply money. He's got a year left on his contract. They don't feel that they can reward him enough, given the kind of money that he wants. He has interest from elsewhere. They're hoping it's going to be Saudi, so that they can get a payday.
He was some player last season for them, wasn't he?
He was tremendous. He was tremendous. Although, to be fair, you could argue he was their third best central midfielder. That's how good Samboguis and Labarca were. Yeah. But they've got Kajus coming in. They're ready to move on. But they really like Gabri Viega, who, of course, in the first half of last season, everybody in Spain was drooling about. He has a release clause of 40 million. Napoli have offered 30 million. We asked Alex Kirkland of Fair, where's all the Gabri Viega hype gone? He did not have a good second half of the season.
Right.
But Napoli hope to get this across the line. And on paper, he seems like a natural replacement for Zielinski. Maybe more attacking than Zielinski.
Yeah.
Kyle Walker has a year left on his deal at City and was linked to Bayern, but that ship has sailed. It looks like he's re-upping for another season with Pep. Make sense, Don?
100%. I think he's one of the players at Man City in that back line who I think is irreplaceable. He's quicker than most. One-on-one defending is incredible. No one really beats him. The performances that he put in against Vinny Jr. were just out of this world. And I think if you sold him, you'd be looking around Europe to try and buy the next Kyle Walker, which I'm not even sure is out there. If he is, he's going to cost you 100. That just seems to be the number these days. So why wouldn't you, if you're Pep, especially when you've lost in a summer where you've lost Mahrez and you've lost Gundogan, you don't want to see any more your first team squad 11 leave to make you weaker in a hurry.
I think this is a situation where, with a year left,
I think you give him a new deal.
You can give him a 1-year extension if you want. He's 33, right? So
Pep's got what, 2 years left, so he might not be there in 2 years.
I mean,
time.
But even if
I think it's a no-brainer.
Even if he doesn't, even if you just say, like, look, we can't give you the extension, we'll evaluate where you are at the end of the season. If I'm Kyle Walker, why would they want to leave?
No,
like, for what? So I get like a 2-year deal, 3-year deal?
No, I wouldn't.
Like, you're there, you just won the treble, enjoy it.
Yeah, totally true. Glasgow Rangers beat 10-man Servette 2-1 in the first leg of their Champions League qualifier. But Gab, I want to ask you about the controversy surrounding the game. What happened?
Well, the guy who wasn't there, Gael Ondoua. I don't like to bring politics into this podcast, but sometimes you have to because it's a question of football. So Gael Ondoua plays for Servette. He wasn't given a visa to enter the United Kingdom.
Right.
And the reason he wasn't given a visa is that Ondoua is from Cameroon, but he grew up partly in Russia. I believe he's also a Russian citizen. He's worn like little Russian flags on his socks before and stuff like that. And he was denied a visa on the same basis that some athletes are denied the right to play Wimbledon if they're Russian, if they support Russia's efforts in the conflict in the war in Ukraine. Whatever your views are, I think this is very different from a tennis player deciding like, oh, I want to go to Wimbledon, an individual making a choice. This guy's an employee of Servette, right? He doesn't have a choice. Yeah. He has to go play in the United Kingdom. Servette employed him. The fact that he has spoken out in favor of the country of which he's a citizen and which he grew up in, and I don't know exactly what he said. I'm hoping he didn't say, "Ooh, Ukraine needs to be wiped off the face of the earth." I mean, assuming he said something reasonable, like even if your country does something which most of the rest of the world regards as wrong, what do you want him to do? Like, I hate my country, it's not even his country because he's Cameroonian, but it's the country of which I have my other citizenship. I think this is really, really bad execution and really disappointed. I hope UEFA and Servette look into this. Obviously, it's not Rangers' fault. It's not the SFA's fault. This is a political thing, and they need to have rules where they say, guys, if people are under contract, you want to play in this competition, you need guarantees from your government that they will be granted visas to travel, because this just isn't fair, I think. Ross Barkley's back in the Premier League. He's joining newly promoted Luton. Don, what does he have left in the tank?
Well, now it's all on him, isn't it? Now it's all on Ross Barkley to prove to everyone that he's still fit enough and he's still good enough, because there's a talent in there. It's now we've all been there as pros when you start coming down off what you think is your best years, and you start coming down off the cliff and you start to deteriorate and you start to get a little bit worse for whatever reason, injuries, fitness, motivation, whatever it might be. But now he's got to look in the mirror and go, he's got a chance now playing for a team in the Premier League, which is a great chance for him. Now when he's playing for Luton, who I've played for, and they're going to be up against it every single game, you would imagine, let's see how much motivation he's got. Let's see how much he wants it, because the talent is in there, but now it's on him. I think it's fair to say that. Back to Spurs. If Kane does move to Bayern, what's the succession plan?
Well, we touched upon this before. The succession plan, of course, I think is Richarlison through the middle.
See, I think it's Evan Ferguson.
Okay. Leaving aside Ferguson, if they can't afford Ferguson, they don't want to spend all this money in Ferguson.
Okay.
Brighton doesn't let him go. They've been linked with Gift Orban, who's at Genk. 21 years old, scored a lot of goals last season in the Belgian league. I think this has to be the approach. Try to get somebody who is cheaper as an alternative, but who's young and who can grow.
But is that not a red flag, though? So you say cheaper, so not as good.
Well, he's not going to be as good as Harry Kane.
No, but you can try and bridge the gap and find someone that's a little bit...
Even Ferguson's not going to be as good as Harry Kane either. Not straight away anyway. So I think you have to spend the money that you can afford to spend, And Orban's gotten a lot of hype. He's bounced around a little bit, but he's still very, very young. And I think it makes sense to go for somebody like that who can be different from the other forwards you have and who can give you something. Erik ten Hag has succeeded where Jose Mourinho and Louis van Gaal have failed. He got the club to agree to turn one of their hospitality lounges into a space for players to relax and prepare on match days.
Like this.
Rather than holding up in a hotel, which is what many clubs do. People don't know, like on match day, you'll report, 5 or 6 hours before kickoff.
Yeah.
You go to a hotel. You guys sit
mooching around.
You sit on your hotel rooms. You play your PlayStation. You're bored. So he wants to have them mooch around and play their PlayStations, except
it won't be PlayStation.
Doing it inside Old Trafford, and he's gotten the club, and this is a club that
I think it makes sense.
They like to squeeze as much money as they can at hospitality lounges and give up a hospitality lounge.
Well, weigh up that with hotel money, but I think didn't Jose have loads of problems and other managers in terms of getting in and to games, and Man United seem to be traffic. They seem to be late, which is bonkers at home when the hotel was just around the corner. I do think it makes sense, though. I do think it makes sense from the manager and the player's point of view to be inside Old Trafford doing your tactical work or work on the opposition strengths, weaknesses, etc. while you're in the building.
What did you guys do in those because you start getting ready and warm up like an hour and a half before, right?
Yeah,
so what do you actually do, like 3 hours before kickoff?
Well, if you're staying in a hotel, it would be early morning walk. When I say early morning, it would be 10 a.m. walk. So you come downstairs, you'd have a walk, then you go back, have some breakfast, or sometimes breakfast before. But you go on a walk just to stretch the legs and just to get out your bed instead of just lying still. Then you'd probably go back, have a shower, come down for 12 o'clock. Then you'd have a team meeting, which might last 45 minutes on the opposition, tactics. Some managers like to flip over the flip chart with the starting 11. Some managers never, tell you the starting 11 on a Friday. Normally, sometimes it's a Saturday, etc. And then you've got to make your way to the game, which gets you there for, 1:30 for a 3 o'clock kickoff. So it's all a little bit time consuming. So if you're there in the stadium, you can have a longer lie in. You can do what you like in terms of being relaxing with the family. You can judging by this, the family could be there with you. And then once you're in the bowels of the stadium, it's not that far to then go down to work. So it feels
Makes sense.
Feels like it's
well done, Erik.
Feels like it's a good move. Right, Kingsley Coman is the latest player to be linked with Saudi, with Mane gone. If Harry Kane doesn't come, will they be a little bit short in the forward department?
Yes, 100%. That you can't if you don't get Kane or another striker, you cannot let Kingsley Coman go, because simple fact of the matter is you must play with a center forward, and your center forward options, as we know, the realistic ones, are going to be converted wingers. I don't like Gnabry at center forward. No. I prefer Coman at center forward. I think they tried Sane there too. Didn't go great. I don't need to see Thomas Muller play center forward again. you have to come up with something. So I think it's essential that Coleman stays, even if, and maybe he'll want to stay if Kane comes. Obviously, if it's stupid money and it helps fund the Kane transfer, then you got to think about it.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.